Welcome into Tuesday, everyone. I am Shannon here with Skills for Kids, and we are back today with our Tuesday Tips for Parents series. We started a few weeks ago talking about some different parenting skills that we were going to be discussing. A few weeks we talked about connecting to your children and how important that is. Expect the most out of our child, but we don't want to expect something that is unrealistic because they haven't reached that developmental stage yet. In child development, being an expert in that field doesn't mean that we're trying to say we're psychologists or psychiatrists or any of those things. It just means knowing the age groups, knowing what you can expect, knowing what not to expect, and taking what you can expect and come across as judging the decision or putting the person down versus the decision. And that can cause a feeling of separation versus connectiveness. I mean, we've talked the last couple of weeks about being able to connect to your child. That can put a gap in being able to connect with that child. So what we want to do is take the opportunity to teach the child, to educate them about some different aspects of what they have done. And I certainly don't mean in any way to say that the child may not need some sort of discipline according to what they have done. It may still be totally appropriate that they're in timeout or they lose a specific privilege that they may have according to what they have done. But instead of just correcting that mistake with, you can't go play basketball this afternoon. You can't do this. You have to go to timeout. You have to go sit in your room and not watch TV. To go along with that needs to be some educational aspects of how they can make some better decisions. So what does that actually mean? For example, let's say you have a 4-year-old. They're not great with communication because they just don't get a lot of our language. They don't understand a lot of our language, probably 30% max. So there are 2 4-year-olds, maybe a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, maybe a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old hauls off and pushes the other child. Is that wrong? Yes, it's wrong. Should they push the other child? No. But to try to come from that child's world, being in that child's world versus bringing that child into an adult world will help us to understand. So a 4-year-old, they really don't get a lot of our language and they don't know a lot of what our emotions mean. So they probably got very upset with something. Their feelings were hurt over something and they don't know how to deal with it. So what do? They push. They get mad and they push. So instead of just correcting that mistake, okay, you pushed her or him, so now you have to go sit in timeout. Versus, they must have done something to upset you. What happened? Now, again, they don't understand language. Are they going to get that? Or are we going to have to continue to explain and probe to get what happened? Probably so. But we want to continue to explain and probe and ask to find out what happened and say, you know what? That means they hurt your feelings. That means they upset you. That means they made you mad. But instead of pushing, maybe we could try this. Maybe even engage with the child in that particular activity that you're trying to get them to do, or a different way to handle it. Help them engage with it. Does it mean you don't put them in timeout? No, it may still mean that you do. You may still say, you know what? You have to sit in timeout for a minute or 2 minutes or whatever your rule is because you did this. The next time we're going to do this because that's a better way to handle it. Let's say you have a child that's a little bit older, say somewhere in the 7 to 9-year-old range. They are notorious for getting very, very, very upset if either they don't win first place every time or they don't get something perfect the first time. We deal with that a lot here with our programs here, our youth sports program and as well as our martial arts program, is that they don't get something perfect the first time. So they're very, very upset and they are displaying behavior that we would just consider bratty, bad behavior. If it crosses a certain line, does that mean they don't have a certain discipline level that goes with that? No, not at all. It just means that it gives us an excellent opportunity to help them understand what is taking place. But before we can understand what is taking place, we have to put ourselves into that child's world. That age group is beginning to understand emotion more so than the younger age groups. But their emotions are so high, they're just like ramped up all the time. And all they know is that they're very frustrated because they think they should get something perfect the very first time they do it. And if not, let's just get mad and let's pitch a fit and let's quit. Well, we could put them in timeout or whatever we think is appropriate for that. And that's fine. But we could also use the opportunity to educate them. We could help redirect just a little bit. We could say, if you were learning a new technique of any kind, be it dance, sports, martial arts, piano, music, writing, whatever it may be, set a number that's appropriate with that particular activity. You know what? I really, really, really need you to do your new technique 10 times or 5 times or 12 times or whatever it may be before you decide whether or not you think you're good at it. And if that doesn't really help, you could even go into, let's say, they really love basketball. Now, I'm going to show my age of basketball and how little I know about it. But Michael Jordan was big for a really long time in basketball, and I'm sure it's still a big name even for probably most younger kids. But it's okay to say, do you think Michael Jordan was like a basketball star the very first time he had a basketball in his hands? Probably not. He had to continue to work and practice at home, and practice on the court, and practice with the coach, and continue to try to get better and better every day before he became who he is right now. And try to relate people that are famous that your kids look up to what they had to do. You could maybe even go on and Google some of these people's stories about how they got started and how difficult it was for them, to show kids that it's very important to not just give up the first time. They have to continue practicing. They have to continue drudging on. Maybe if their typical reaction if they don't win first place is to throw things around and get mad and not talk to anybody. Let them know that they're a part of a team, and everybody on that team has a duty. They have a job. And if they get out earlier in the game, they still have a job. Their job is to help their team. And they help their team by sitting there and clapping and encouraging the other team members, because that keeps the overall energy very high. So they become just as an important part of winning that particular game as somebody who's cheering their team on and keeping everybody motivated as if they're still in the game, as if they aren't out. So there are lots of different things that you can do for different age groups. What's really important, again, sort of as I alluded to in the beginning of this, is to know what the developmental expectations are for your age of child. And again, if you can simply comment below, email us, call us, whatever may be more convenient to you. I'm more than happy to send you the information that we have on the different developmental stages of the different ages of children. Obviously, there's Google. You can go on and you can Google all sorts of information. I do hope that this has been very helpful for you, and that it helps you to stop and think and sometimes be a little bit more in tune to a kid's world versus a grown-up world. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.